Welcome to Charts This Week. My name's David Linton. I run Updata, and this week's edition for Monday the 26th of September comes to you from London. So we start as always by looking at crude oil prices. Brent crude, it's a little bit of a descending triangle just forming here on Brent, just lower highs and a bit of a base. So this 45 level is now looking pretty critical. We're at 46 this morning, so watch for that. We are crossing through the cloud as well, of course. We've seen this deterioration. Last year had a big deterioration. By this time of year we were starting to fall quite heavily, and of course the last few months, October, November, December, typically are bad months for crude, and we are below the cloud. We have been saying for some time that we expect crude to go lower at this time of year. The seasonality just tells us that, and we can see here the seasonal characteristic based on the last 10 years weighted towards the current year in your Updata system. That is the seasonality function here. We see that it is falling away. Crude does recover in the beginning of the year, but it would be fairly strange to see crude rallying from here, and in fact there's lots of talk about OPEC at the moment, but the seasonality for crude is quite bearish. If we look at the 60-minute chart, we had a little bit of respite for a couple of days, but this is what we see now in the downtrend. Big moves down, small moves up, big moves down again, another big move down this morning. Of course, on your Updata system, press the T key and you'll get the targets. New downside targets to 42.05 and 42.10. This one not quite activated yet. We need a new low below 45.80 for that to be activated. But this is what we call a cluster when we see targets pointing to the same area, so that is a factor there. So it does look like the low 40s. On WTI, we're not quite through the cloud yet. On the 60-minute chart, price is coming through, and again press the T key for the targets, 40 15, 40, 95. So we're seeing targets to the low 40s, and of course if you're trading crude in the very short term, take a look at the 1 minute chart. This data all coming from Thomson Reuters Icon. Shift T, and we see here 45 is the downside target. Quite a lot of resistance there in terms of the short-term trend. Watch those 1 minute charts for any new moves to the downside. If we take a look at natural gas, just hugging this $3 level, just back below again, we see that this is a time of year where in fact prices might be through the worst. We didn't really follow that seasonality trend that significantly. We do see a little bit of a recovery now in the next few months as we head into winter, so maybe we will break that $3 level convincingly. We did get above $3, but we just didn't manage to hold on to it. So a move above that sort of 308, 309 level on US NatGas would be significant. Big trend here on the 60-minute chart over the last couple of weeks, but that is now broken, so we are back into bearish territory. But we do have a downside target of 282, but we do have some quite convincing upside targets to 313, 314. These weren't quite met, so that is a little bit bearish for the price. And again, if you're trading NatGas, then the 1 minute chart is going to be your chart to watch. And we do have some resistance here and quite a few downside targets back into the 280s. Keep an eye on that 1 minute chart this week just to get a handle, but at the moment quite a tough call on US NatGas. If we look at European gas products, MBP front month is still below the cloud, so that's bearish on the daily. Correlation with crude oil. This data coming from either your Trayport system or the Updata energy feed, broker OTC, broker consolidated data real time. And we see here that we are negatively correlated, so that's quite interesting. So quite key that we are below the cloud, and crude falling, just a slight negative correlation. We have had a strong recovery in September, but we are still below the cloud on the daily chart. On the 60-minute chart, of course, we are above because of that, and so this is the chart where we are seeing some bullish action in the short term. Press the T key on your Updata system. We do have upside targets to the sort of low 40 level, 40.70, 41.70 for MBP front month, so keep an eye on that. And of course, if you're trading MBP, which lots of Updata customers are, press the T key for the trends and targets. High 30s, 37.90, 37.85, 38.50. So we are seeing still upside targets. We do have a little downside target here, so keep an eye on that as well. TTF, much the same picture as MBP as we would expect. Press the T key just for the targets, 14.93 and 15.45. That's an upside potential of between 7 and 11%. This downside target not yet activated, so it's still looking pretty bullish in the short term. And the pictures for NCG and Gaspool quite similar. We take a look at power. German power back through the cloud, so starting to look quite bullish here. Not need to take out these June and July highs, but it's looking pretty strong back above the cloud. If we press the T key on this daily chart, we do still have downside targets. No real big thrust targets here. If we vary the box size though, we do see an upside target 50% away, 54% away to 43.50, but we need to break above the 30 level really to be convinced that that target is in the offing. If we look at the 60-minute chart, really looking very strong here on power, and we see 29 as the next target. So not a long way from here, but that's looking, and that would take us above those highs that we saw a couple of months ago, so that would be significant. If you're trading German power, of course, the 1 minute chart is going to give you more granularity. Press the T key on your system, 29.10, 3% upside at the moment, so looking quite good. French power also looking very bullish. That is making new highs. Target here, and it is activated 38 and then 43.75. So French power looking very strong indeed, coming through. So quite good news there. If we take a look at currencies, we look at the US dollar first. Dollar index holding this bullish position on the daily chart. On the 60-minute chart, we are just in bearish territory at the moment. Again, all these prices coming from your Thomson Reuters icon system. So we see here that we are just turning bearish below the cloud for dollar at the moment. So quite interesting that. Euro just starting to turn a little bit bullish here on the daily chart, getting back above this sort of 213 level, looking in quite likely now that we will just start to run a bit. If we look at the 60-minute chart, that showed through first, of course, and we see here we did have this consolidation, and then we're back into a bullish phase. Press the T key. It is a hard one. It could go either way really with the euro. This is very much a trading range. 114.90 not yet activated, and 109.30 is activated. So still a tough call, and of course the 1 minute chart will give you the very short term picture. Adjust the box size in this bottom right hand corner down here, and we see no real thrust targets to talk of. So quite difficult to give a call on the euro this week. So euro dollar looking fairly stable. Sterling, on the other hand, we did have this activation back in August where we did actually activate the downside target to this 94 pence per dollar level. 108 was the level that we did see here. Sorry, 94 cents that is. So we are seeing these very dramatic downside targets on sterling. If we look at the 60-minute chart, it has been in pretty much decline, making new lows this morning, new closing lows on the 60-minute chart. So this is every hour it's closing out at lower levels. Really quite worrying. Downside targets to 125 and 20 and 126.30, and on the 1 minute chart we are actually seeing downside targets to 125 activated as well. So no surprise here that we are seeing strength in the euro. 87 we've got to at one point, so that's looking quite worrying. This is on the 60-minute chart again. Really clear trend, euro strength versus sterling weakness. Press the T key and we see here 93 as the target. So sterling looking very weak against the euro indeed. We see here Norwegian krona did fall off a bit last week. So we're seeing here that the Norwegian krona worth more, the euro is worth less krona, so krona showing some strength. Swiss franc in a range. Sterling Swiss again making new lows on the daily, so that's quite worrying. Sterling looking still pretty bearish, and we expect new lows this week. Taking a look at stock markets. Not a great week for markets. They're all sort of pulling back. The picture is still overall bullish. This is the S&P 500, bullish on the weekly, bullish on the daily, still bullish on the 60-minute, but just not. It's just struggling to get above this 2,100 level. If we look at the Nasdaq, these are all tracker charts in your Updata system here. If we look at the Nasdaq, we see bullish, bullish, bullish again. No clear downside targets, but again just struggling to break to new highs. But we are seeing upside potential of 20-25%. US election is probably going to weigh a little bit on US markets for a while. The FTSE, we're seeing strength in the weekly, the daily, the 60-minute. Big fall this morning on FTSE, down about 1.25%. So that's not yet showing up fully on the charts in terms of the short-term picture, but we do now have this new downside thrust here pressing. Again, sterling, FTSE just struggling to break this 7,000 level. If we take a look at the DAX, again, markets pretty well across the board, down quite heavily this morning. We're seeing here weekly, daily and 60-minute all bullish, but new downside target forming here on the daily for Germany, so quite negative. We see Tokyo leading Asia down, but down 1.25%, and we see here still bearish on the weekly, bullish on the daily, and still bearish on the 60-minute, with quite a few downside targets. So Asia still looking pretty worrying, and China really fell off quite heavily in trading today. So we are seeing bearish on the weekly still. The daily still just bullish, but we are seeing quite big moves down here, and we've got some very big downside targets. So Asia's still looking pretty worrying. If we take a look at the Indian market, it's just turned bearish as well on the 60-minute. So that is a little bit just a sell-off, but looking very strong in the long to medium term. But we do have this sort of new downside target of about 5% based on this falls that we've just seen in the Indian market. So that is just a little bit worrying. Just Asian markets probably not looking as strong as they have been. So we need to just be very aware of that. Here we'd like to take a last look at gold. Weekly chart we see is bullish, the daily chart is bullish, the 60-minute chart is bullish. We still haven't activated the second target, but 1700 is the long-term target for gold. We are really in this sort of sideways crunch here around the 1330s, so keep an eye out for gold. This short-term picture is the one we need to watch, but one of the few products that's looking bullish on all time frames at the moment. That's it for this week. Until next week, happy charting. See you then.